Hey everyone, welcome to my weekly live training. Today I am teaching you guys about the seven keys to guarantee that you reach your
Hey
goals.
everyone, welcome to my
hold on,
weekly
guys.
live training. Today, you guys.
Okay, guys, sorry about that. Sometimes Facebook does this thing where I go live and it like replays my voice after I speak it so I can hear myself. So it's like really distracting. But yeah, so today I'm going to be teaching you guys the seven keys to guarantee that you reach your goals without motivation. So I know that I've covered this topic before about motivation, and I get so many questions about like how do I stay motivated to reach my goals. The reason why I am covering it again is because in the past I haven't really had like one devoted training to the topic of motivation. And so I just wanted like just one video that everybody can refer to who struggles with motivation and how you can, get past that. And then the other reason is there are, in the past, I've covered like four different keys to help like get past the motivation coming and going. But for this training, I want it to be all inclusive. Like I want to cover everything regarding motivation. So instead of four keys, we are covering seven keys to guarantee results without motivation. So if you've watched any of my motivation trainings before, I'd encourage you not to say to yourself, oh, I've heard it all. There's nothing new that I need to learn. Because again, I have incorporated some more steps that I think are really, really key to this. And then also, Alex Hormozy, just to give you guys a quote, Alex Hormozy is a self-made millionaire, and he was a self-made millionaire in his 20s. I think he's currently like 34 right now. But one thing that he says that I really like is we often don't need to learn something new. Rather, we need to be reminded of what we need to do. So a lot of people like to think when it comes to, achieving anything new or getting different results, they like to think, oh, I just need to learn something completely brand new and that's going to change the world for me. While that can be true in some scenarios, oftentimes that's not always the case, and we just need to be reminded of like what we actually need to do and be consistent with that. So yeah, let's go ahead and get into it. So if you guys have any questions on Facebook, just type it in the comments and then I will get to it eventually. So this question I get all the time is, how do I stay motivated? And for every single person who asks me that, my answer is always the same. You don't. You don't stay motivated. So you won't stay motivated at all times, and that's normal for everyone. For example, like, have you ever been in a place where maybe you've seen someone suddenly become hyper motivated to lose fat or gain muscle? And then they say to themselves, like, I'm going to eat chicken and rice for every meal until I reach my goals. And I'm going to work out every single day until I reach my goals. That's motivation. And that's an extreme case of motivation. But, for 99% of those people who say those things to themselves while they are motivated, they end up falling off. For three reasons. One, it's completely normal for motivation to come and go. Motivation is not a constant feeling. And two, they can't sustain that long term because, it's too severe. And then one, they're relying on motivation when they shouldn't. And then the third reason, and then that was the third reason, the motivation fades. So, like I said, motivation will come and go for literally everybody on earth. But what separates those who do reach their goals versus those who don't reach their goals are the seven key steps that I'm going to be addressing. So let's go ahead and get into those. So the first one is discipline. Now, those of you who have watched my motivation trainings before, probably these first three or four will be familiar to you. but I encourage you to just stay tuned, keep listening while I am covering these topics, because again, sometimes we just need to be reminded. And then also the last 3 to 4 steps are completely new that I've never covered before that I think will help you guys a lot. So one of the biggest factors for reaching any of your goals, whether it's fitness, health, becoming rich, you know, anything, is discipline. Like that is probably the number one thing that'll help to guarantee that you reach your goals. So like I said, motivation comes and goes for literally everybody. So you need to have discipline. So what is discipline? Discipline is making yourself do what you don't want to do, but you need to do when you don't want to do it. So again, discipline is making yourself do what you don't want to do, but you need to do when you don't feel like doing it. So if you're always waiting on motivation to stir up within you, you're always going to be inconsistent with what you need to do to reach your goals. But discipline keeps you consistent when motivation is coming and going in those waves. So for example, like let's say maybe whenever you first started your career, maybe not your first job. I know not everybody's very serious when they, get their very first job, but let's say when you first started your career, your first serious job, I'm sure for the vast majority of you, you didn't always want to go to work, but because you had these goals of paying your bills, your goal of being able to eat, and maybe also thirdly, your goal of potentially moving up in position in the job, you made yourself go to work even though you didn't want to. That's discipline. So it's the same with your fitness and health goals, in that it's best to learn to rely on discipline than relying on motivation. Okay, so the second step is our baby steps. So I'm a big fan of this. I'm a firm believer in taking baby steps and how powerful they can be in not only reaching your short-term goals, but also your long-term goals. So many people fail to reach their goals because they try to change too much all at once. Remember that example that I gave earlier about the person who had the spark of motivation and they're like, I'm going to eat chicken and rice for every meal. I'm going to work out 7 days a week. That's an example of trying to do too much all at once. So to a degree, this can tie into falsely relying on that spark of motivation, taking too big of leaps into changes. But sometimes it can also be due to relying on too much self-discipline, meaning making yourself try to achieve everything all at once. So, basically big picture, it's not a good idea to never a good idea to rely on motivation. And to some extent, it's not a good idea to rely purely on self-discipline because you can take that to too big of an extreme as well. So, again, that's not always the case, but if you find that you have a tendency to take on too much at a time, leading to burnout or constantly feeling overwhelmed, then I'd basically encourage you to try to see the value in taking baby steps. So if you can be consistent with something long-term, like, taking a few baby steps at a time as you're trying to make changes towards your goal, fitness, health, money, anything, then that means that you can be successful long-term in reaching those goals. Because sustainability is the biggest factor for reaching and keeping your goals. So let's say that, you take these big leaps into changes with your fitness and health, and you can sustain that for a few months at a time. And let's say you reach your goals, you lose the fat, you gain the muscle and the strength that you're looking for. But then because you were so perfect with everything and so disciplined with, taking these huge steps, you didn't learn how to implement that into your life in a way that was sustainable for you. So that's a big problem. You reached your goals, but you couldn't keep your goals, your results, because you bit off too much. So if basically if you can't be consistent with something short term, then you're not going to reach your goals long term, or if you do, you're not going to be able to sustain them long term. What I frequently say, I've been saying this for a very long time, probably since I was a teenager, is it's better to be faithful with little than faithful with nothing. Meaning it's better to be consistent with baby steps than to not be consistent with huge steps due to it leading to burnout. Sorry, excuse me, guys. Let me get some water real quick. Okay, so let me give you guys some examples of baby steps. For example, let's say that you need to do both things of nutrition and fitness. So let's say you need to adopt new eating habits and training habits, but you know that you have a tendency to fall off of new changes due to burnout or just, taking on too much at a time. So what I would recommend is for you to assess what you currently have grace for. For example, so you need to change both your eating habits and your fitness routine, or you need to just start exercising altogether. Then, assess what you currently have grace for. Maybe you have more grace for the time being to just do the training and not touch anything with the nutrition just yet. So, that's one baby step. And then, from there, you can break that into more baby steps. So let's say that you can't be consistent with going 5 times a week, which I don't recommend anyway. That's a totally different topic. You guys are familiar with what I recommend, lifting only 2 to 3 times a week max for optimal results. But okay, so you can't be consistent with 5 times a week. So you just break it down to like, okay, I can make myself work out 2 times a week. Like that's easy. It's 2 out of 7 days a week. And you have grace for that. So then you make that a habit and that part of your lifestyle for the time being, and then you gradually add on to that from there, whether that's from there starting to incorporate some nutritional changes like eating more protein at each meal, or maybe 2 out of your 3 meals a day are healthy and the third one is unhealthy. Or maybe you just stick with the fitness for the time being, so you're working out 2 times a week, and then once that becomes a habit and part of your lifestyle, you make it 3 times a week. So there's a lot of wiggle room, there's a lot of options. It's really going to be individual, and you just need to assess what you have grace for. Okay, cool. So the third one is giving yourself grace to fail. So whether you decide to take baby steps or take giant leaps, it's going to be inevitable that you're going to fail. You're going to mess up. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to fall off. So it's going to be so essential that you basically learn to give yourself grace in that failing process. Because just like it's normal for motivation to come and go for everyone, it's also normal for everybody to make mistakes or fall off with anything in life. So where this can become a problem if you don't learn how to have grace for yourself is like, let's say that you're so hard on yourself when you do fail or fall off that you basically beat yourself up about it. And so you stay stuck in this basically this failed position that you have reached, and you do nothing. You just stay in that failed position because you're so down about yourself. Or maybe you take it to extremes where like you messed up and you have this mentality of, I messed up, so I might as well go all the way and, screw everything up. I used to be this way quite a bit whenever I was younger. Like say for nutrition, that I first in the past I used to just make myself be perfect, or what I thought was perfect nutrition wise, and then because I was restricting myself so much, I had these like extreme cravings. Like I can't tell you how bad these cravings were. They were like uncontrollable, and I would give into my my urges to binge. And because like I messed up with an unhealthy food, like I went all out binging, and it was really bad. So yeah, that's an example of going to extremes. So in part of, and thankfully I'm not like that anymore. Learn to have more balance in that regard, and that's sustainable, having that balance. But my point is don't be too hard on yourself if you make mistakes. It is normal. And that's another thing. When you realize, when you learn that making mistakes is a normal part of life, including fitness and nutrition, that just makes it part of the learning process, and learning, like, what mistakes you've made, what weaknesses you might need to work on, what triggers you have, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, just accept failure as part of the learning process. Nothing is going to be perfect, and have grace for yourself in that, so that you don't get stuck in this position of failure. Like, I failed and I messed everything up, so I might as well, shoot myself in my own foot. Okay, so the fourth one is accountability. So I don't believe I have talked about this one before on the topic of motivation. So we can't do all things by ourselves, at least not be able to do all things by ourselves greatly. Like, I think the term is like, jack of all trades, but master of none. Like, if you're trying to do everything, like, first of all, like, no one on this earth is perfect. So you're not going to be able to do everything perfectly and greatly by yourself. And so in saying that, you can have so much extra benefit if you know where your weaknesses are, or where you don't have the knowledge, or say the discipline, and you have someone come alongside you and keep you accountable, so that you can learn and glean from them. So embracing accountability is kind of like a beginning step of adopting anything new. So as an example, as a child, you didn't have the self-discipline to make yourself brush your teeth every morning and night, but your parents kept you in an accountable position, and basically brushing your teeth every morning and night. And so they acted as a point of accountability, reminding you daily. They taught you the lifelong value of brushing your teeth every day, and maybe even implemented some like potential discipline if you didn't brush your teeth daily. So basically, having an accountability partner, whether it's an experienced friend. Now, when I say experienced friend, yeah, if they're like kind of an expert in the field, or like somewhat of an expert in the field, that can be beneficial. But I wouldn't put any friend in that position. Like, I'd say they'd have to be very, very successful in that position, and really care about your well-being and whatever the goals are, fitness, health, anything. So it could be an experienced friend, a mentor, or coach, helping to keep you accountable. And it's the same as kind of like that parent. When you were a kid, not wanting to brush your teeth, they kept you accountable. So accountability can simultaneously act as a motivator. Again, not that we should rely on that, but it's like, an extra plus. So accountability can simultaneously act as a motivator, a teacher of self-discipline, and even an educator of basically invaluable knowledge that they have to help you reach your goals sooner rather than later. And so that ties into my next key for basically guaranteeing that you do reach your goals even without motivation. And that one is keeping an open mind to learn, and willingness to invest in basically learning what you need to do to reach your goals. So I was definitely guilty of this in the past. Basically, oftentimes we can waste our own time and money if we're unwilling to learn new things, or we don't have the humility to basically, confront the fact that we do need help when it comes to reaching our goals. Or maybe it's just trying to take shortcuts to reaching our goals. So one such shortcut can be the mentality of like saying to yourself, I can train myself and I'll save money doing so. I used to be so bad about that. I do see the value in having like, to a degree, like complete, independence in, wanting to learn things yourself, and just having that independence to encourage to do so. But that can be a pitfall, and you can end up wasting so much time and money in that situation. And that definitely happened to me. And by the way, I'm not saying that you shouldn't do self research on things that you're wanting to improve on. Like, I wholly think that you should do that at all times, and you should always ask questions, even if you are working with someone. So, basically, that mentality of saying to yourself, like, I can train myself and I'll save money in the process. That mentality is basically a process of trial and error, meaning you're going to do your own self research, you're going to test it out yourself, and you're going to figure out from there what works and doesn't work. So, okay, so let me put it this way. The year is 2023. Sir Isaac Newton, I know I don't remember everything that he discovered in terms of mathematics and physics, but he discovered so much in regards to mathematics and physics. So the year 2023, do you think it is a time efficient thing to try to figure out on your own what Sir Isaac Newton already figured out? Or do you think it'd be more time efficient and save money overall if you hired someone or, ordered a course to teach you the principles that Sir Isaac Newton figured out? So that's basically the one of the errors in that thought process, is like, just, you can save so much time and money if you have the willingness and the humility to, just accept that you need help. Okay, so let's see, just looking at my notes real quick. And there's great value in that too. So Alex Hormozy, again, who I quoted earlier, he's a self-made millionaire and was by his 20s. He often says this, and so does his wife, Layla. They basically say that they were able to get to their point of wealth because they were more than willing to constantly invest in their education when it came to managing money, multiplying money, not trading your time for money, but rather, basically saving people time and making, all kinds of really cool, awesome stuff. And they basically have the mentality that they are going to be willing to learn all of their lives. So they're only in their 20s and 30s right now, but they have the mindset that they are constantly going to be willing to invest in themselves, in their education, so that they can continue to like multiply everything that they have and bless people in that process. So the sixth thing is removing the fluff. So I hear a lot of people say that, like, oh, they don't have time for fitness and health. They have too much going on. And to me, that's incredibly sad. And I think if they like saw the truth to it, they would be sad over saying something like that as well. So I know that it sounds cliche, but you literally only have one life and one body. If you don't take care of them, you're not going to get a second chance. Yeah, later on in life, like, you can choose to change your choices and choose to take care of your body and your life, but at that point you've lost a lot of valuable time, and you may have basically like compounded like the damage that you did. So it makes it harder. Solomon in Ecclesiastes, he says there's a time and place for everything. If you go to college in your 50s, that's going to be a lot harder when you have a family and a career, versus going to college in your 20s when you don't have a family and you don't yet have a career. It's the same with fitness and health. Like, if you take care of your body when you're young or just starting now versus waiting until later, things won't compound, like negative health issues, or gaining the fat over time or getting weaker over time, all those things. But a lot of times people will file fitness and health in the like back burner pile. They make a priority out of everything else. So, and basically that's a matter of like not putting your priorities first. But let's say that you really are just have so much on your plate. Well, get rid of the fluff. Like assess what are the essentials versus the non-essentials in your life. So for example, like let's say that you're working tons of extra hours to pay for a lifestyle that isn't necessary. Like let's say that you are in debt with a lot of cars that aren't necessary, or maybe too pricey for what you can really afford. Anything like that. Just a lifestyle that is a want versus a need. Well, you can cut down on that lifestyle, basically cutting down on your budget to only the primary essentials and maybe some extra fluff, but not as much as it was before. And when you do that, you'll free up money, time, and energy so that you can be consistent with fitness and nutrition, which really should be a priority anyway. Some great teachers on these subjects are Dave Ramsey, or I recently found out about Caleb Hammer, and he has a YouTube channel called Financial Audit. Those YouTube videos are so interesting to watch. And it's very, very eye-opening too on these subjects as well. So I highly recommend both of them. Another example of some extra fluff, like, okay, so let's say, okay, so I know people love their kids and they want to give their kids everything. And that's awesome. That is, kind. That's, a good thing to do. But let's say in your effort to give your kids everything that you basically make yourself like work all these extra hours, you take on a second job just to give your kids some extra wants. Again, I'm not saying, you shouldn't provide their needs. Absolutely provide their needs. I'm also saying not to provide them wants. I'm just suggesting do it within moderation. Like don't kill yourself, zapping your energy, your health, sacrificing your fitness and health in order to do so. Instead, what you can do and what will actually benefit them better, because they'll also have, a healthier parent who has more time for them as well, is, one, teach them the value of thankfulness, like being thankful for what they have. Versus like always wanting the new and greatest thing or just wanting everything. And then the second one is, teach them the value of for anything that they want that is extra, again, not essential stuff that should be provided. Teach them the value of hard work, like, have them earn money by like doing chores around the house, teaching them valuable skills like, taking care of the lawn, laundry, all that stuff. And so not only will you benefit their character by teaching them life valuable skills, but you'll also save yourself some time and energy by, having them do some of the chores that you already do yourself. So, and then the other thing is, so still on the topic of removing the fluff. So this one's slightly an aside, but one thing that I teach my clients is it's best to prioritize one goal at a time. Because if you don't prioritize one goal at a time, you can end up spinning your wheels in regards to results, which again, wastes time and energy. So for an example, like let's say that you're a beginner lifter, but you need to lose fat, gain muscle, and gain strength. As a beginner lifter, yes, you can achieve all those things, all three of those things at once, because of something called newbie gains. But after you get past that newbie phase, if you're still trying to achieve fat loss, building muscle, building strength, all at the same time, you're going to come to a point where you're basically spinning your wheels, like you're wasting your time. Because you don't have that like newbie effect anymore. So what you should do at that point, after the beginner phase, is prioritize one goal at a time. Like let's say that you lost a lot of fat, but you're seeing your fat loss basically kind of trail off. So what you should do instead is switch your priorities, where for the time being, you focus on restoring and speeding up your metabolism and getting strength gains. If you spend some months doing that, not only will you speed up your metabolism and build substantial strength and muscle. So again, you're prioritizing strength and muscle over fat loss, but you'll also, by the time you do start a fat loss phase, you will be more effective and efficient at doing it because you basically periodized your goals, and that's basically what it is. So basically, to summarize, like getting rid of the fluff, basically like set your priorities straight. What is most important for the time being, both for the short term and the long term, not just for you, but for everybody else around you too, like your kids and stuff like that. Okay, and we're almost done, guys. So the seventh and last one is keeping fitness interesting by competing against yourself. So one great benefit that you can take advantage of in your training is to keep things interesting. Now, when I say that, don't rely on keeping things interesting to make you be consistent with what you need to do. Because again, that ties back into basically, this basically ties into being a motivating factor, which again, I said that we shouldn't rely on, but for any time that we can take advantage of it, like let's just go ahead and take advantage of it. But again, don't rely on this, just make it like, an extra plus. So, and another way that you can keep things interesting is to provide variety in your workouts. And we'll go into that, but to a degree. And when I say to a degree is because when you have too much variety in your workouts, that can actually deter your fitness results. So in just a second, I'll cover how to, make sure that you're not doing that. So let's see. Okay. So how do you compete against yourself in fitness? Well, one way is for every time you work out, always aim to beat your last best. For example, let's say that you squatted 415 pounds for 5 reps. Well, the next time that you work out, you should either aim to do 420 pounds for 5 reps, so 5 pounds more, but the same amount of reps, or squatting 415 pounds for 6 reps. So that you're either increasing the weight or the reps. And when you do that, you will accomplish 2 things. One, you basically achieved progressive overload, meaning that you got stronger, which is also a sign of building muscle mass. So progressive overload is basically what you want to aim for every time you work out so that you can build that muscle, lose that fat, and gain strength. Otherwise, you're going to stay stuck if you're not achieving progressive overload, meaning getting stronger in your lifts and your workouts. And the second thing that will accomplish when you do that is, I can't tell you guys like how invigorating and exciting it is. Like when you go to the gym and you're about to, that you're trying to beat your last best and you actually accomplish it. Like you were stronger and you can feel and see the difference. And as that compounds week to week to week to week, it is very exciting and, dare I say, motivating, to keep you on track with fitness and keep things interesting and in essence providing variety. And there's another factor of variety that we're going to touch in a second. So yeah, it's really exciting. So I know some people think that they'll get bored doing the same exercises and workouts week to week, but when you compete against yourself in this way, like I explained previously, it definitely does keep things interesting and fun. So to touch upon the variety that I spoke about, to a degree, you can also change up your exercises and workouts to keep things interesting. But I would not recommend that at all if you're a beginner, because there's so much stuff going on in your central nervous system as a beginner. And if you're always changing your workouts, your exercises, those CNS adaptations are not going to occur. and it's going to be much harder to achieve progressive overload. But, if you're an intermediate lifter or advanced lifter, I would only recommend changing up your exercises or your workouts if you've reached a plateau in a specific lift for more than 2 weeks in a row. And when I say like change up your exercises, like let's say that you plateaued in, standard deadlift. Well, the variation doesn't need to be anything extreme. You could go to like, sumo deadlift. So it's still deadlift. It's just, slightly changed stance. Or let's say you plateaued in chin-ups, which are underhanded grip. And, then you could switch to pull-ups, which are overhanded. And so you're basically providing your body a different stimulus, and also providing that variety to help keep things interesting. And so because you're providing that different stimulus, you oftentimes can push past that plateau. Okay, so I'm going to summarize everything. So basically the 7 keys to guaranteeing that you reach your goals, even without motivation, are 1, discipline, 2, taking baby steps and seeing the value in that, both short-term and long-term. Having grace for yourself to fail, i.e. not being perfect. Accountability from someone, preferably a professional, to keep you on track. 5 is willingness to always learn all your life and invest in your education so that it can get you on the right track sooner rather than later to reaching your goals. 6, removing unnecessary distractions or fluff in your life that are not necessary and are technically less essential than your own fitness and health. And number 7 is self-competition and variety in your workouts to keep things interesting. So that pretty much summarizes everything. Let me see if Facebook had any questions real quick. So Adolfo says, calculus and the laws of motion. Yes, on the topic of Sir Isaac Newton. Yes. And he also says, best feeling when you have to move the pin 1 over. Oh, okay. I was thinking of pin like changing the height of like where the squat bar racks. But you're talking about like the stacked weights of pins. But yeah, it really is exciting to get stronger each week. And by the way, it's not long term. It's not possible to get stronger literally every single week. As a beginner, yes, it is possible. But once you reach that intermediate to advanced stage, it's not going to be possible week to week to week. You're going to have waves where, you get stronger, you stay the same, maybe get a little bit weaker, and then you try to break past that plateau by changing things up a bit like I recommended earlier. So just to give you guys an idea of what to expect as beginner and intermediate advanced lifters. So yeah, that's it, everybody. Thanks for watching. If you'll have any questions on anything, just let me know. And I will see you guys soon.